We've wrapped a lot of Cybertrucks since it first came out, and since then we've learned a lot. So we're going to compile some of the things that's not always obvious on wrapping a Cybertruck for DIYers and pros. So the number one thing is the frunk area. So if you have a lot of time, and if you're a DIYer, you may not want to do this, but I found that if I am crunched for time, I do like removing the front panel right here and the lights. Why do we do that? Well, first of all, there's not as much space, and when you don't have a lot of time for example, like color PPF and it's a wet install, it doesn't dry out as quickly. So if you do this, you can actually dry it out a lot quicker, and then you can fold over all the way underneath this panel right here. On top of that, if you look at the front panel right here, you can see we have already removed the top, and the top actually sits right here, and it's actually held by a bunch of 10mm. So when it's compressed right here and you're trying to fold over the edges, it gets way harder. So by doing this, it just makes it a lot easier. You don't have to wait as long, and then you could just fold it over and then you're good to go. It probably takes about like 10 minutes to remove the whole thing. When you are removing the front, maybe get a hand, but it's mostly 10mm, and we also have a video on it. So that's tip number one. Tip number two. So you don't always have to remove this. I feel like a lot of patterns are now available on, Core, XPEL, 3M. So I feel like there's not a whole reason to remove all of these things. And also a reason to bulk it, honestly. Even if you do it and you add a little bit of like halo around it, you'll save a lot of time because you don't have to trim as much. But instead of removing all this, what I'd like to do is I just loosen it up. It's a bunch of 10mm. But by loosening it up, you can get all the vinyl or PPF or anything you want all in there. You get full coverage because the fender, this cover right here, kind of covers a lot more than it looks right here since it's just a frame right there. So the stainless steel is really nice, but it looks clean. But when you look really closer, you'll find that some of the areas will have like black dots or maybe even what looks like what people call rust, which is just surface rust. And we already have this cleaned up and ready to be wrapped. But one of the things that you really don't want to skip, whether you DIY or do pro install, is definitely clay bar. That will make sure that you get rid of all the imperfections, because the last thing that you want is you put a wrap and you have a bunch of pimples all the way around. It doesn't look good. So make sure you don't forget to do clay bar. So the Cybertruck is super cool, but here's a problem. Some of these edges are extremely sharp. I actually hit my corner. I feel like I always get a cut somewhere. And the thing is, it's inconsistent. Sometimes the door will be a little sharp. Sometimes the rear quarter panel will be a little sharp. So it varies. So if you feel, just kind of get your hand and rub it around, and you'll feel that some areas like right here, it's a little sharp from the cut. So what I will do is I'll get some, it doesn't have to be like crazy grit, but you can get start with like a 1000 grit, and then just kind of sand it down. What it does is it kind of dulls that area. It'll make the vinyl or PPF or any film stick a little bit better. And on top of that, if it's not sharp, not as sharp, you won't injure yourself. But I found that like here, sometimes in the bottom right here, it can get a little sharp, and of course the hood, and a bunch of areas. I mean, it is cut and stamped. So it just, even if they do deburring and stuff like that, I just feel like there's going to be certain areas that just might be a little sharper than normal. So sanding it is an easy way to do that. One of the hardest part about a Cybertruck that we've realized is, here's the thing, doing the panels is the fastest panels you'll ever do, and you'll feel like superhuman. You know what the hardest part is? Are the edges, especially the pillars. So we've wrapped a lot of Cybertrucks, and we've also seen a lot of changes across the number of years that it's been out. And actually, one of the first things I'll do is I wish I could just show you right here. It's not really as apparent here, but maybe you can come to the other side and I can show you what I'm talking about. All right, like here, do you see this little rubber guard? I want to just push it down all the way. All right, what's happening is it's a lot more out, and like, I don't know if it's when they put it together or something like that, but you'll notice that it rides like right against the pillars. So when you have vinyl there and that rubber seal's right there, it sticks to the rubber seal. So I get like a squeegee like this, and I basically just inspect the top. I just kind of get on top of the car like this, right? And then I'll look at the car, and you'll see Then in this one, I have no issues because I think I already did this one. But I'm just going around, and then also right here at the bottom, usually it's in the front. Here, I'll show you right here. So there's plenty of space right here. Look at this. A little tight right here, but still plenty all the way around. And most of the time, this is what you can do to kind of get at. But there's a lot of space right here, all the way across. So what you're doing is you're just prepping that pillar so that no rubber seal is higher than it should be. And you're also just checking the edge to make sure with a squeegee. And you're kind of creating the space so that you could wrap around that, right? Because the pillars, the difference between like Cybertrucks and other cars is, think about a Cybertruck, right? I mean, it's literally a 90-degree, right? Like, you're not trying to wrap it onto the edge like normal cars. You're actually trying to wrap behind it, and that alone is what's sticking. So you'll typically wrap a little bit more. So for example, like a lot of times you don't need as much, but on a Cybertruck, we've actually started adding a little less, and then we added more meat later on into our kits as well, just to make it a lot easier and for it to stick. So that's a really good tip. That's kind of one of the first things that we do. That's not that obvious. Last tip that we have for you is remember that the Cybertruck is actually on an air suspension. So if you are working on something like the pillars, bring it down low, right, all the way. And if you are working on something like the doors, go all the way up and save a little bit on your back. So I sometimes forget to do that, but just remember that and make sure you're good to go and you're not on the ground or using a ladder. Cybertruck is an awesome vehicle, and I feel like I'm a little biased, but it should be wrapped. But those are some of the uncommon tips that we do at the shop when we actually get these cars to wrap. Hopefully that helped. Like and subscribe and follow us. We'll see you later.